Hi, this is your host, Daniel Gutierrez. I'd like to welcome you to our call with today's guest, Derek Rydall. After a life-changing brush with death while making a movie, Derek considered becoming a monk, then a minister, then meditated for several years, emerging to become a licensed integrative therapist and best-selling author. The world's #1 leading expert on the Law of Emergence. He has trained top executives at Fortune 500 companies from American Express to Disney in relationship and communication skills, coached writers, artists, and media professionals, including Oscar and Emmy winners, on how to create more enlightened entertainment. Derek has taught thousands of people around the planet how to live more passionate, prosperous, and a purposeful life. His work with the Law of Emergence and the process of emerging ends the struggle of self-improvement and helps people effortlessly achieve their full potential. Today you will discover the unattractive side of the Law of Attraction and how it will make your life worse if you don't know this truth. Understand the difference between the Law of Attraction and the Law of Emergence. It's the missing link to manifesting. Learn why whatever's missing is what you're not giving and how to generate everything you need no matter what. Discover why everything you want is already here now, and the key strategy is make it a reality. Learn the 7-stage process that will finally get you unstuck on purpose and make you truly unstoppable. Derek, thank you for joining us and welcome to the call.
Oh, thank you, Daniel. It's my honor and pleasure to be here.
I'm so excited to have you share with us this. You know, the unattractive side of the Law of Attraction. I can't wait to hear about that. But just for a few minutes, would you just kind of share your story and what's kind of gotten you to the level of success that you're seeing today?
Absolutely. My story, of course, I'd always been a seeker, and several years ago, I was at a place, really very much of a low in my life, where I was broke and living in a 1-bedroom apartment, had recently broken up with my fiance, was alone, was depressed. To be honest, I was pretty much suicidal. And I was addicted, had become addicted to drugs and alcohol. And all of this was because I had been struggling for so many years through therapy, through different approaches, to find validation, to try to make my life happen, to try to improve my life, fix my life, make it better. And it was like all of those efforts to fix and improve and make my life better and create a better life, all that just seemed to drive me deeper and deeper and deeper into this place of lack and, you know, like I said, get me addicted to drugs and alcohol. It was kind of like the analogy of trying to dig yourself out of a hole. The more I tried, the deeper in the hole I got. And ultimately, I ended up in the emergency room, almost dying from an alcohol overdose. And I remember lying there in the bed with an IV attached and the monitor beeping, and just thinking, this is where my life's come to. And even worse, I was in my 20s, and my mom was on her way to get me. So talk about feeling humiliated and feeling like I'd really reverted back. And unfortunately, that wasn't quite enough to shake me out of this pattern that I was in of, you know, seeking validation and approval and trying to control and manipulate my life. Ultimately, I was doing a movie in Jamaica as an actor, and I got stuck in a reef underwater, and I was in this little area where I didn't know how to get out, and I couldn't move because I was surrounded by fire coral and spiked coral that was inches from my face, my throat, my chest, my stomach. And if I'd moved too much or lifted my head out of the water, I would have been skewered by it. And I could only swim with my fingers, just paddling, just my fingers to keep me from being pushed into this spiked coral and from the tide. And I was stuck in this space for a couple hours, and you know, my mind going through all the scenarios of how I could be saved, and then finally all the scenarios of how even if I die, I'm going to become famous posthumously. You know, there'll be some advertisement in the Hollywood trade saying, you know, what a great talent we've lost in Derek Rydall. And it was so funny. So even in my last throes of death, my ego was still seeking its 15 minutes of fame. And at some point, my mind reached the end of the reel. And you can kind of imagine one of those old reel-to-reel tapes just kind of going, you know, with the tape flapping up against the thing, and there's nothing left. And there was just nothing left. There was no more scenarios, no more of me trying to negotiate with God. It wasn't, God, if you just get me out of this, I'll go to church on Sunday. And all that was left for me was an awareness that I was no longer afraid that I was going to die, or I no longer was hoping I wouldn't. I knew that I was going to. And it's hard to understand that experience if you've never had it, but I knew this was it. And all that was left was complete and unconditional surrender. And so I did. The only thing I could do, I let go. And in that moment, this water came, this wave or the tide, whatever, came and pushed me or lifted me out of that space and set me down on top of the one area outside of the water that I could actually stand that wasn't covered in fire coral. And I was able to, for the first time after this ordeal, stand up and look down and where I had been stuck and see that I had been caught in this labyrinth and that the exit was right behind me all along and that freedom was literally inches away. But I had been stuck in this little cubicle, this little small, narrow spot. And I was able then to slip onto the other side and get to freedom. But in that moment of first of all, what it was is I realized in that moment it was a metaphor for where my life had been, that I had been stuck in this small little space. I've been swimming through this labyrinth of self-improvement and personal development and trying to get approval and all of this. And I'd become stuck in this little cubicle thinking that was it. That was all that was left for me. And that was really a metaphor for my life and that freedom was really just inches away. And in that moment of unconditional surrender, something snapped in me. And I didn't have the words then, but it was like Humpty Dumpty fell off the wall. And for the next year, I tried to put Humpty Dumpty back together again. And there was no way that all the king's horses and all the king's men could not put that back. My ego had been cracked open. It had been ripped away from its moorings. And for the next year, I was plagued with death and destruction dreams and fear of dying. And what I realized in retrospect was that the ego was dying, that identity anyways was dying, and the plug had been unplugged. And the ego doesn't know the difference between psychological death and literal death. And so the transformational energy that was being released from that act of total and unconditional surrender, to the ego, that was a threat. So it interpreted that as death, as danger, and that's why I was having all these destruction dreams and all this, apocalyptic dreams were going on during this period. And finally, I decided I was going to become a monk, and that's how you talked about in the intro. Mm-hmm. And I tried to become a monk, though a very funny story is I did my first trip to a monastery. I was fasting for the first time. I was doing my monk thing for the first time and on retreat, and I got so hungry that I broke into the monk's kitchen. And actually, if you can just picture me, I'm in the dark in their kitchen. There's like a hallway, it's slightly lit, and down at the end I know are their little cells, their little rooms, the head monks. And I got my hand in this deep, what do you call those, deep freezers, whatever, the refrigerator, and Sub-Zero, whatever, and it's like, it's completely dark, and I'm ferreting around in the dark of this refrigerator like a raccoon that has come into the room, and grabbing whatever seemed edible and stuffing it in my mouth, and then I proceeded to get violently ill and have my first and most terrifying out-of-body experience ever when I went back to my room. And so I realized the monk life probably wasn't for me. And so I ended up cloistering myself in my apartment and really meditating and praying and trying to get back in touch with this space that I had touched in that moment of surrender, and really became face to face with this self that has never been diminished, that wasn't hurt by my bad childhood, that wasn't hurt by my parents, that didn't need to be improved because it had never been hurt, never had been diminished. And that it was already whole, it was already complete, and more magnificent than I can even imagine. As the Rumi says, if you could behold yourself, you would bow down in reverence of yourself. And I became really connected to that self. I became introduced to that self that had never been hurt and that didn't need to be improved. And that was really the beginning of my own awakening out of the struggle of self-improvement and trying to manifest and make stuff happen, and realizing that the fundamental problem with all the self-help and self-improvement is that you're trying to improve a self that doesn't exist. Because self-improvement is an oxymoron. When you really understand the self, you see that there's nothing to improve about it. Just as Michelangelo said that he believed God had already created all the masterpieces, and his work was simply to see the masterpiece hidden in that block of stone and set it free. And that's really where my journey led me, to that great realization. Now, it took me several years from there to really unpack it, to give it words like the Law of Emergence, because I realized with all the hype around the Law of Attraction that there was nothing to attract. There was only more of us that's seeking to emerge. Kind of like the oak tree is already in the acorn. The acorn doesn't have to attract an oak tree. It doesn't have to improve its acornness to become an oak. In fact, quite the opposite of improving itself. It has to let go of its acorn identity. It has to die to its former identity for the oak to emerge. But it's already there. It's already the oak tree. And when the conditions are right, the oak naturally emerges. The potential naturally emerges. And that's how all of nature operates. And that's how we operate. We're not separate from nature. So that was really my experience and my revelation in my path. And of course, it turned my whole life around from that moment of that awareness, from that moment of surrender, unconditional surrender, to the realization that it was already within me. Everything I'd been striving to get, to achieve, to make happen was already in me, just waiting for it to make it welcome. And from that moment on, my life took on a whole new level. I began to, get more work, more opportunity, and went from being broke, eating Kraft macaroni and cheese and suicidal to, $1 million homes and traveling around the world and teaching many, many people, tens of thousands, and really more than ever living the reason why I was really born and feeling connected to a part of me that nothing in the world can ever take away. And that's the pearl of great price. The real secret is that you've already got everything you could ever need within you, and nothing that's ever happened to you or that ever will or that currently is can hinder, block, delay, or deny the full expression of your potential, of your destiny, if you get in touch with that pattern within you and become connected with it and congruent with it, which we're going to talk about during this call.
I really appreciate your openness and your authenticity and your story. It's always so refreshing to have people share from their heart. At the time that you were in your 20s and struggling with drugs and alcohol, that you weren't perfect, although we all look for that seems. Earlier today in the call, I said something that I'm really interested in, and that you may have already answered this, but I'm gonna ask it anyway more directly.
Sure.
What is the unattractive side of the law of attraction? I'm really, really intrigued by that.
Absolutely, and it's a really important thing to understand because basically the law of attraction is an operation. It's a cause and effect principle, and it operates at a relative level. At the relative level, it looks like you're causing things, and then there's cause and there's effect, and you're attracting things. But it's really just a linguistic convenience. The same way that we say that the sun rises and sets. We actually know now that doesn't ever happen. The sun has never actually risen or set. We're rotating, and we have the appearance or the illusion of a rising and a setting sun. The same thing is true with the law of attraction or with the idea of attraction. Nothing's really being attracted to you. That's just at the relative level. We know now from quantum physics that there's a field of pure potential, a field where everything already exists, and it's emerging. There's an emergent property. When the conditions are right, that inherent potential emerges. There's the enfolded universe and the unfolded universe. In the enfolded universe, or the implicate order, it already exists. Just as 2 plus 2 has always been here. Nobody made up 2 plus 2. Nobody created it. Nobody created the law of electricity or buoyancy or any of these things. They were discovered and they were activated, and then they came into expression. They emerged. So, or like I used the example of the oak tree and the acorn. So there's really an emergence of this unending potential. And so the problem is that when we are trying to use something like the law of attraction or any manifestation technique, right there in the word, there's the belief that we're attracting something we don't already have, that we're separate from something, that we're broken, that something's missing, that something's lacking, and now we're going to use these things to attract it. And so even if you have the greatest of intentions, the underlying premise is I'm broken, something's missing, I'm inadequate, I don't have it. And now even if you manage to, through sheer will, manifest, as I like to say, you manifest a bigger paycheck, you just end up being broke at a higher income bracket. Right?
Yeah.
Because you end up bringing with you literally bring with you the same self-image and the same concepts about your life and about yourself. Now they just get magnified or exacerbated. And that's really the best case scenario. In fact, I say this somewhat provocatively and somewhat tongue-in-cheek. Is it an accident that over the last 7 years or so, we've had the biggest en masse movement on using law of attraction and manifestation type techniques? More people than ever before with concentrated, focused effort trying to manifest bigger houses, better jobs, and more money. And simultaneously, we've had the biggest job, housing, and economic collapse since the Great Depression. So if it really works, and we suddenly have millions of people collectively with vision boards and all these affirmations and trying to visualize and manifest and attract bigger jobs and bigger houses and more money, how is it that all of that's collapsed? And one of the reasons I believe is that there's a bigger reason I believe something more is emerging, but that, again, all that energy that's focused ultimately with an underlying premise, I don't have, must eventually manifest as the experience of not having. And that's why the Bible says, to he who has, more shall be given. To he who has not, even that which he has will be taken away. And it's speaking of a state of consciousness, of a state of having, so that the individual that has a consciousness of I have must manifest more having. But to he or she who has a consciousness of I have not, no matter what they do to manifest more, they must ultimately manifest more of not having. And so even if they manifest a bigger house, they're going to ultimately feel even less at home. Even if they manifest a new relationship, they're going to ultimately end up in the same arguments. Even if they manifest a new job, they end up with the same boss just wearing a different mask. And this is the experience of so many people trying to use these laws or these strategies. But the problem is they're coming from a false premise of being this person that's separate from life, separate from each other, and separate from their abundance. When the truth that all the great mystics and teachers have been teaching us, it's why Jesus said, when you pray, pray believing that you already have, that you may receive. Now, that wasn't a metaphysical trick. That was a mystical truth. He knew, as all great masters know, that the kingdom of heaven is within you, that nirvana is within you, that this storehouse of infinite riches is within you, by whatever metaphor you use, and that the only way you can experience more of it is to let more of what's in you out. In other words, to activate it. Whatever's missing is what you're not giving. That in the Old Testament it said that you have been given dominion over everything. And it says later on, ye are gods. I mean, these messages have been peppered through every great scripture, every great spiritual teaching, and ultimately every great leader who has innovated and activated and built something of true abundance has tapped into this awareness and realized that it's in me. And the only way it can show up out there is if I find it in here and I find a way to let it out.
So are you saying that the difference between the law of emergence and the law of attraction is the law of attraction we're going outside?
Well, yeah, the law of attraction is we're starting from a belief that we are missing or lacking and don't have something. And then we're trying to attract it to us. And again, that's like an acorn trying to attract pieces of an oak tree to it. But what does it do? It actually plants itself in the soil, and when the conditions are right, the potential, the pattern that was already in the acorn begins to emerge. And there's a perfect pattern of infinite potential that's planted in the soil of our soul, and that was planted there before we were even planted in our mother's womb. And unlike the acorn, which is indigenous, meaning that it's dependent on external circumstance, the weather and the soil outside of it. We are endogenous, as Ralph Waldo Emerson said, meaning that we carry the weather with us. We carry our soil with us, the soil of our soul, the weather of our consciousness, what I call the ecology of consciousness. So that no matter how much the sun is being blocked outside by the clouds, no matter how, lacking in nourishment the outer soil of our life seems to be, we can activate and cultivate the soil of our soul and turn on the light of our own being. Because again, we are also self-effulgent, which means we can produce the light we need to activate the potential of that seed within us. So it's all within us. We are like a living, moving, walking divine ecosystem that we can literally turn on. We can turn on the light. We can cultivate the soil of our soul. We can create the weather pattern within us that we need to create and to activate that potential within us. No matter what side of the tracks we've been born on, no matter what our genetics or hereditary, no matter what our family upbringing, no matter what our current economic conditions, no matter what the world says we can or can't do, no matter what even our own mind says we can or can't do, when we cultivate the ripe and the ready conditions within us that are congruent with our true self, it must emerge. It is a law. And it's like, no matter, it doesn't even matter how long we haven't been doing it. If that acorn has been sitting in your pocket, the farmer went to, pour the acorns or whatever, let's say the apple seeds or whatever it is, into the ground, and one of them got stuck behind, and years later, the farmer pulls out his little jacket and finds that little apple seed and plants that in the soil. The soil doesn't go, gosh, I'd love to help you, little apple seed, but I'm afraid you missed your boat. You should have been here. You should have been here, 5-10 years ago when all the other seeds were being planted, And I think maybe you came from a line of seed, a family of seeds that just never quite got planted. And I'm, sorry, the soil can't do that. The law of emergence in the soil must operate upon that seed. And when the conditions are right, it must become an apple tree or apple pie or whatever is your treat. And so, or if you think of a plug being unplugged from a lamp, once you plug that plug in, even if it's been unplugged for years, the law of electricity can't say, gosh, I'd love to turn you on and, let your light shine, but sorry, you've been unplugged. So the minute you get plugged back in again, the minute you tap back into that principle and get connected to that perfect pattern within you and become congruent with it, then it begins to emerge in your life. And again, it does, if you're good, if your abundance is planted 10 feet underground on the other side of the world, when you get connected to who and what you really are, and you get congruent with that potential within you, if somebody on the other side of the world needs to find that treasure buried 10 feet deep and bring it to your doorstep, it will happen. Because that pattern must manifest. It must show up when you become congruent with it. That's how powerful we are. But it's not, it looks like it's attracting to you, just the same way the sun looks like it's rising and setting. But what's really happened is it's emerging. You've activated something within you. It's emerging in consciousness, and then it shows up in the world.
I never really looked at things that way, and I could truly see how that. So I love your analogies of the seed or the acorn, because it really helps kind of make sense that the acorn doesn't attract a tree or pieces of it. It is right. A tree. Right. You said something that I really want you to help me with and help the listeners with. And this is one of the things you say, whatever's missing is whatever you're not giving.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
Well, this is the key, It's like the title of this topic today, Wealth Without Limits, the one key that unlocks unlimited abundance now and really forever. And this is the key. And this is the key that all the great teachers have been saying, is that it's already in you. It's already in you. You are not merely a body separated from the rest of life. You are a state of consciousness. You are an unlimited, infinite state of consciousness. And everything that you could ever need to be all that you were created to be is within you. Or another term, you're a divine power plant. And a power plant doesn't receive energy, it must generate it. But we've been born into a false idea of who we are, that we're this body and we're separate from everyone and everything else. And so now we've got to go out and make it happen. We've got to go get it. We've got to attract it. We've got to achieve it. We've got to create it out of, nothing, that we're this empty shell. But no, really, we've come here already with everything, but it's invisible. You know, and I use the analogy of like music, like a radio. Right now where we are, our favorite music is already playing, but we can't hear it. It's not manifest. It's not tangible until we tune the dial of our radio to the station, to the frequency where it's playing. The minute we do that, we get music. It becomes manifest. It becomes audible. It becomes tangible. So we have to begin to open ourselves up to a new understanding of life, that life is not material. Life is spiritual or energetic or vibrational. And we know this now from science. This isn't woo-woo. We know that everything is energy. We know that ultimately it's an illusion that there's all this solidity. And that really what there is just energy and information. There are these ideas that are waiting to be activated. And so we are a state of consciousness with infinite ideas, infinite potential. And so it's already within us. But you have to understand that concept. You have to begin to accept that you're not just this physical body. You have to accept what physics and quantum physics has now taught us, that you're a state or a field of consciousness, of energy and information. And then you have to begin to get in touch with that information and begin to find ways to express it. So that's why I say whatever's missing is what you're not giving, because it's already in you. And when you reverse the flow and you notice all the places where you're waiting for something to happen to you, and instead understand that life doesn't happen to you, it has to happen through you. And you start giving and activating and expressing and stepping out on those things that you're waiting to get, you begin to find that you activate it, you express it. It's kind of like in Indiana Jones when he has to walk across that bridge of faith and there's nothing there. And he's kind of waiting for the bridge to appear and he's kind of looking around for some other way across. And only when he steps out on the nothing and is willing to walk in the direction of his vision does the invisible bridge begin to appear beneath his feet. And so we have to start to find ways, and I talk about this much more in depth in my program, about how to start activating that inner power plant, how to really turn it on and start generating that appears to be missing, because really it's all within you. It's just latent. It's just potential. And you have to get tuned into it in order to hear that music and start to dance to it and express it. And we're going to do a little process a little bit later where I'm actually going to take them through a little exercise to activate it. It's a process that's become very popular around the world called the visualization, vibration, radiation process. And it allows them to activate the feeling, to generate that energy, and to start to radiate it into their experience. And I remember when I started doing this again after several years, I was doing it just to activate more of the potential within me and start to just generate it and be more of service and radiate more love and more peace and more, goodwill to humanity. And within about a month, tens of thousands of dollars, unexpected, just started showing up in my life. Now, and it wasn't because I was trying to make something happen. It was because I started activating and generating what I felt was missing. I was having the experience that there wasn't enough of certain kinds of feelings in my life. So I just started generating that. And again, when you generate it, that feeling tone of abundance, the feeling of abundance, the feeling of generosity, when you start generating that feeling tone is the very substance of abundance and wealth in your life. And it must begin to show up. Remember, whoever has, more shall be given. That consciousness of having. And this is true whether it's, in any area of life, especially in relationship. Unfortunately, a movie like Jerry Maguire did a lot of damage to relationships with the idea of you complete me. Because the truth is that two people coming together from a state of being incomplete do not create whole. It's like, two halves, HALF, two halves, or HALVES, do not make a whole. Only two halves, HAVE. Two people coming together from a state of I have, I am, and come together to be in love. If you even look at the words, in love, meaning you are together in something. You're in a field of love, sharing in it, communing in it, like you're in a pool together, splashing the love all over each other, but you're not getting it from each other. And the same thing is true if it's abundance or wealth. I'm talking about abundance in all forms. If you're trying to get it, then again, you've already affirmed that you don't have it. But when you realize that it's within you and you start generating it, then you begin to find ways to activate it. And when you realize that it's within you and you start generating it, then you begin to find ways to activate it. And when you realize that it's within you and you start generating it, then you begin to find ways to activate it. And when you realize that it's within you and you start generating it, then you begin to find ways to activate it. And when you realize that it's within you and you start generating it, then you begin to find ways to activate it. And when you realize that it's within you and you start generating it, then you begin to find ways to activate it. And when you realize that it's within you and you start generating it, then you begin to find ways to activate it. And when you realize that it's within you and you start generating it, then you begin to find ways to activate it. And when you realize that it's within you and you start generating it, then you begin to find ways to activate it. And when you realize that it's within you and you start generating it, then you begin to find ways to activate it. And when you realize that it's within you and you start generating it, it begins showing up in your life. And it seems miraculous only because we've been born into a materialistic perception of our life and of ourselves. And we've been born into a belief we have to go out and make it happen instead of realizing we have to go within and make it welcome. And though that burning desire that we have for more abundance in our life, whatever the abundance is, more love, more wealth, more health, more happiness, that desire is not a symbol of something that's outside of us we need to go get. It's a sign of something within us trying to get out. And even the word desire comes from a root word that means of the sire, or of the father, or of the creative principle. So that burning desire means we're actually pregnant with something, you know. And as I use the analogy, you know, when you really, really, really want more abundance in your life or more of something, that's the moment to get really excited, because that's the guarantee that not only do you have it, but if you're literally pregnant with it, it's trying to get out. That's why it's burning in you. But because we've been born into a false identity, and we think that burning desire is a sign that we don't have it, we get sad, or we get anxious, and we get ambitious, and we get busy. And all of those efforts to try to attract and make it happen now literally become the resistance that's blocking it from emerging. And so that burning desire is the clue that you've got it. So take a breath, relax. It means you've got it, or you couldn't have that desire. You are now pregnant with something. So like a pregnant woman, if you now start running around trying to make a baby happen, you are crazy. You have gone crazy now. Just know that. You know, if a pregnant woman starts going around trying to make a baby happen, people are going to think she's crazy. And if she starts doing affirmations, I'm pregnant, I'm pregnant, I'm pregnant. I have a baby, I have a baby. And she starts doing all these things to make a baby happen. Pretty soon, those nice men in white jackets with good upper body strength are going to come along and take her away. And then not only will they take her away, but she will also lose her baby probably. So again, to he who has not, or she, even that which she has will be taken away. So instead, what does she do? She begins to rub her stomach and just go, oh yeah, I'm pregnant. That desire is the baby kicking. I have it. I have it. And then when she does all these activities like taking vitamins and exercising and creating the nursery, she's not doing any of that to make a baby happen. She's doing all of that to make the baby welcome.
So I'm really excited about what you're sharing with us today, and I love your ability to tie stories to it so we can understand it better. You have a 7-stage process. Could you share that with us? This is the process that people could start getting unstuck and living on purpose.
Absolutely. And it's basically, you know, my over 2 decades of me struggling and striving and self-improvement and attraction and all these different things. And like I said, almost dying a couple times as a result of it. And a couple decades and tens of thousands of dollars of research and development, I've discovered or distilled the 7 stages to cultivating and activating that seed of potential that's in all of us so that it begins to emerge in our life. And it's really what I call, and what somebody else really started, and that's why I call it now, they say it's really the end of self-improvement. And because, again, any attempt to improve ourself is an affirmation that our self is somehow broken or lacking. And instead, it's about self-acceptance and emergence. And there's seven basic stages. And I'll go through them really fast, and we can talk about them a little bit more at the end, because I go into them much more in depth in my program. But the first one is you have to have a vision. It's see the completed vision. It's like Michelangelo, who's talked about, you know, he started by seeing the masterpiece already completed in the block of stone. He had to start there. Why? Because if he didn't first catch a glimpse of the masterpiece already in the stone, he wouldn't have known what to chip away. And he just saw the masterpiece and chipped away everything that wasn't it. So the first stage is see the completed vision. And there is a vision that's trying to emerge in you. And it's shouting out all around you. There's clues all around you to who you are and why you're alive. And it must become priority number 1 to discover and to tap into that. It's why in Proverbs it says, where there is no vision, the people perish. It didn't say, where there is no vision, the people have a bad day. You know, it said, where there is no vision, whole cultures die. And we see that to some extent in our world now in all the chronic systemic crises, a lack of vision on some extent. And so the first stage, is you have to have a vision for your life. And it's not a vision you make up. It's a vision that is really that you're made of. And one of the clues that you can do is you can look around and just even right now, look at and imagine 3 to 5 people you really admire, you think are amazing, either living or dead. And just take a moment to write those names down, and you can pause this and take more time. But what is it about them that you admire, respect, and write down those qualities? And what is it about their life that they represent, they stand for, that you most admire? And write that idea or that theme or that message down. And then I want you to think about, and you can be doing this as I'm talking, think about the 1 or 2 issues in the world that really break your heart or really anger you, and you just think, why doesn't somebody do something about that? And write that down. And what you're doing right now is you think you're writing about these other people, but what you've just done is you've described yourself. Because what happens is that when we have those parts of us that are trying to emerge, they give us clues by the things in our life that push us or pull us. Whatever's pushing or pulling you is a projection of your own unintegrated potential. It is that seed within you that's calling out, saying, this is you. And so when you look at the world now, those people that are pulling you, and you describe them, now I want you to put your name there and say, I am a powerful, confident, abundant, inspired leader that teaches individuals how to, et cetera, et cetera. You're actually describing you. And when I've done this with people around the world, literally in a few minutes, they're suddenly in tears, or they're, oh my God, I can't believe it. That's what I've always felt, but I never quite could see that. It's like suddenly looking in a mirror, not realizing that you're looking in a mirror, and suddenly saying, hey, you're looking in a mirror. That's you you're seeing. And so if you do that, you'll begin to tap into the vision that's trying to emerge in you. So that's stage 1. You have to have a vision. Stage 2 is now that you have a sense of what the vision is, now you have to become congruent. So stage 2 is cultivate the congruent conditions. That's like cultivating the soil that's congruent for that seed, the kind of soil you need for that seed to grow. You need different kinds of soil, different kinds of ingredients to make different kinds of plants thrive. So stage 2 is cultivate the inner conditions that are congruent with that vision. And that means let's say you have a vision where you are, wealthy and abundant and you're successfully doing something in the world and making an impact. You ask yourself, who would I be and how would I feel if I was doing that? And then you begin to ask, what activities could I begin to do now that start to activate and make me feel that way now? And again, I go in much depth on step-by-step how to create that. And the process we're going to do in a little while is one of the strategies to cultivate those congruent conditions. But you start to ask, what would it look like to be that person now? To step into that feeling tone now? And I'll just really briefly tell you in my own life, when I practiced this, I went from being nearly broke, singing in an old retirement home with a broken down piano and smoke-filled room as I began to show up and be the person that I wanted to be, bring the excellence, bring the joy, activate the qualities, and become congruent with the person I wanted to be, even though the conditions were not like that. I just decided to become congruent. Suddenly, within a matter of a couple months, I was running the whole place, the whole show. I was singing, and I was being asked to sing all over the place. And my life got so busy singing and performing and teaching and speaking that grew out of that space from me showing up. And another time we wanted to have a new home, and we were living in a little apartment. And the natural thing is to look at your place and go, oh, this isn't good, and to feel kind of bad and feel lacking, and then to go out and try to attract a bigger home or whatever. But instead I started having a clear vision and cultivating these inner conditions so that we began to feel like we were living in a mansion. I began to go and sit into model homes and feel what it felt like to be in them. And then we'd go in the park with our boy and we'd play and we'd have a picnic and we would act as if we were already there. And then we'd come back to our current little apartment and we would dress it up and take care of it as if it was our mansion. And we just began to be and to feel congruent with our vision. And within a matter of about 60 days, I'm going to say that's 30 days, about 60 days, we were moving into a home that 60 days before was an impossibility.
Mm.
So what happened? I became congruent. That's stage 2. Stage 3 is create the quantum plan. And that means once you know where you're going and you know who you are meant to be and how you're meant to feel, you need to create a plan that allows you to orchestrate and organize your life around that. You need to have a structure. Otherwise, you're just living life on accident. And so you literally, organize, okay, every day I do this for this long, or, it's a plan. And I walk you through how to do that step by step. But if you don't know where you're going, if you don't have a vision, which is stage 1, every road will take you there. And if you don't have a plan of yours that you're living, then you are living someone else's plan. You're being pulled by other people's agendas. It's like when you open up your email box in the morning. If you don't have a plan for the day, you've just opened yourself up to everybody else's agendas. It's like an email box is a nice organizing place for everybody else's agendas. And so if you don't have a plan for that day, when you open up that email box, you can forget about it because you're going to be taken off by somebody else's plan. So we need to have a vision. We need to become congruent, and we need to have a plan that keeps us on track no matter what. And then stage 4 is you have to begin to reverse the flow. As I said, whatever's missing is what you're not giving. So stage 4 is give what appears missing. And that's where you learn. And like I said, this one idea alone, if you just grasp this, it will radically and completely change your life. You will never be a victim of anyone or anything again. You will never find yourself thinking, God, if they would just give me more respect or more validation or more approval, then I would be able to live my life more fully. No, only you can activate that within you. You are the divine power plant, and a power plant doesn't receive energy. It must generate it. And so in this stage, you learn how to turn it on. And again, we're going to do that in the process coming up, how to turn on that power plant, how to start generating those feelings, how to fill yourself up first, and then how to start radiating it. Because you cannot give what you don't have, but you can't keep what you don't give away. Because you must keep circulating it. It's the law of circulation. So in stage 4, you begin to activate that and really master that. And then in stage 5, act as if you're already it. That's sort of what I was talking about before with Indiana Jones. So often we're looking out at the world and we're waiting for the ducks to get in a row. We're waiting for something to show up. We're waiting to have enough money or enough time. If you're waiting for things to change, you'll be waiting forever. Because what you're waiting for, you're actually waiting with, and you're weighing it down. And that, as I like to say, somewhat tongue-in-cheek, it's time to get off your big fat assets, right? because you've already got it. It's within you. I mean, if you get nothing else from this, I want you to just get that seared into your brain. Even if right now you're arguing with me and you're thinking, what does he mean it's within me? Look at my life. My life's terrible. I know it because you're basing it on appearances, and that's why the master teachers have always said, do not judge by appearance, but judge righteous judgment, which means to discern spiritually, to discern in terms of what's in consciousness. So you cannot judge by what appears. What you're seeing is just an old thought. It's an old behavior pattern that's manifested, that's congealed into experience. It has no power over you at all. The minute that you turn on this inner power plant and then you begin to step and to walk as if you are that individual, miracles can happen. Miracles. It's like Justin Bieber, as an interesting example. If you ever saw his movie, he was trying to do all this stuff and nobody would accept him. All the record companies turned him down. They wouldn't play his music at the radio station. They said he was too young. His voice was too young. This was before we had all these young singers that are now out there trying to be like Justin Bieber. But what did he do? He didn't wait for his voice to get older. They told him, they said, go home, wait till you're a little older, then come back. He didn't wait. He decided, no, I have a vision. I have a dream. And he was congruent with it. And he began to go to radio station after radio station and just sit there literally in the lobby and play for the secretary, play for the assistant. He began to continually act as if he was the successful singer that he was. He just had to be that person. And pretty soon the guy would come out. He would listen to him. He'd go, okay, here, come. And he would let him play live on the radio. And then he would tweet and Facebook and let his little crowd of people that knew about him. Pretty soon, 2 girls would show up at the radio station, then 5, then 10. Then they had to call the fire marshal out because they couldn't contain the crowds. All of this was because he didn't wait for the world to validate him. He didn't wait for anybody to show up and say, okay, now is your time. He knew he had something in him that had to come out, and he began to live as if it was true. So that's stage 5. And again, I go much deeper into that, but I hope you can feel. You must begin to step into your destiny. You must begin to see it, feel it, plan it, and then step into it. That's stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then stage 6, as you do this, it's going to inevitably bring up in you all the places in you that feel broken, that feel lacking, that feel missing. And what we've been taught is to try to fix and change and get rid of and overcome those parts of us. But all of those parts of you that feel dark are actually gifts waiting to be unpacked. The darkness is the light in potential. Those broken parts of you, when you integrate them, become the strongest parts of you. And so stage 6 is embrace what appears broken. And again, if you just get that stage alone, your life will never be the same. Because so many of us are struggling to heal and fix and improve ourselves, or to cover up, or to get rid of all these parts we think are bad. And that's like falling into quicksand and trying to get out. The minute you try to get out, it does what? It pulls you deeper. But when you stop and you embrace those parts of you, that dark soil that seems so scary and dark and dirty, it becomes the very substance and the nourishment that feeds and fuels your emergence of the next stage of your evolution. And we don't have time to get into all the details of that stage, but I could literally talk for days just on that. But you must begin to stop trying to fix yourself. You must start to just accept and embrace that you are okay now. You are enough now. Whatever your weight, whatever your bank account, that acorn is not an imperfect or inadequate or broken oak tree. The acorn is a perfect acorn. Yes, it's going to emerge to become a great, majestic oak. The caterpillar is not a broken butterfly or an inadequate butterfly. It's a perfect caterpillar. Yes, it's going to eventually spread wings and fly. But right where you are is good enough. And you must start with I'm enough and embrace and love yourself. And that is a primary condition. Just that alone will start to activate your emerging power. And then finally, stage 7, wait upon the law. And this is the principle that infinite patience brings about immediate results. It's the principle that so often we plant a seed, and when it doesn't grow right away and bear rich fruits, we think something's wrong with it, and we leave it, and we go try a different seed in a different hole in a different garden, a new tool. It's called shiny object syndrome, entrepreneurial curse, whatever name you want to give it. We keep bouncing around from one program to the next, and we don't give that thing we've activated a chance to get roots. It's like the Chinese bamboo tree. It takes 5 years, and it only grows a couple inches. And then in the 5th year, in a matter of a couple weeks, it grows 80 or 90 feet, 8 or 9 stories. Because during that time, it was growing this magnificent root system to contain this incredible bamboo tree. And so likewise with us, the deeper the roots, the higher the shoots, and the richer the fruits. And so we have to have the patience to keep cultivating the soil of our soul, to keep doing the inner work, to keep living in that place, knowing that we're developing a deep root system, whereas most of our teachings teach us just to focus on the branches and fruits without any roots. And then what happens? A good wind comes along and it knocks that tree down. So in this stage, you really learn how to have patience, how to keep cultivating, how to understand the principle, the law of emergence, that you plant the seed, you cultivate the soil, you love it, you nourish it, you enjoy the process, and in its perfect season, it begins to emerge in your life. And when you have that patience, it emerges rapidly.
We're almost out of time, and I know we promised the audience that we would do this visualization. Can we do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's, I know I've given you a lot. I always try to over-deliver, and I want you to take the time, re-listen to this, and really take notes step by step by step and how this applies to your life. But right now, I want to take you through a little process to really activate this in you. So close your eyes right now and take a nice deep breath into your heart. Just imagine you're breathing and pulling the light into your heart. And see it and feel it filling your body. And as you exhale, imagine that you're releasing all of the old energy and whatever no longer serves you, like smoke just billowing out of every pore of your body. And another deep breath into your heart. And another, again, release everything that no longer serves you. Just becoming very present and relaxed. And I want you now to bring to your heart, to your mind, a moment in your life, any moment at all, where you felt really connected. Just a high moment. It could be any moment from childhood on up to adulthood, where you just had a high moment. You just felt really good. You felt loved or supported or inspired or successful and abundant. Just give yourself permission to see it, to feel it. And take a nice breath. And as you exhale, let that feeling expand in your heart. Just imagine it expanding to fill your chest. And another deep breath. As you exhale, imagine it's being pulled and expanded on your breath to fill your whole body. And now in this more receptive place, I want you to open up to the vision of your life. I want you to ask, what is the highest vision for my life? The highest possibility. If I really believed I was supported and loved, that I had everything that I needed, the resources, the abilities to live the highest vision, what would that be? What would that look like? Not what is practical or what is logical or rational. For now, put all of that aside. And if your mind goes, but how would I do that? Or who do I think I am? Just put all of that aside right now. Forget the how. Right now, just open up to the what. What is the highest possible vision of my life? What does it look like? What does it feel like? If I could really be that person that I was describing earlier, that empowered, confident, poised, self-assured, inspired, creative individual. If I could be that person and really have an impact in the world in a way that truly matters to me, if I could do that in any way possible that really inspires you, what would that look like? On a scale from 0 to 100, what would feel like a 100? And see yourself in that now and feel what that feels like. And just take a nice deep breath and surrender more fully to that vision, saying, yes, I can. Yes, I will. Yes, I'm able. Just feeling the willingness to be in it right now, to see it. Not worrying about the how, but seeing yourself being that person, doing those things, having those things. And as you're feeling that, I want you to take another deep breath. And as you exhale, let that feeling expand to fill your heart. And give it a color. And let it expand again to fill your chest. So you see the color expanding and you feel this positive energy, this visionary vibration expanding. And take another deep breath and just feel the energy of your vision expanding to fill your whole body. And it's okay if it's a little or a lot. Just feel whatever good feelings are growing and expanding in you. You're not forcing it or pushing it. You're breathing and allowing it. It wants to expand in you. It wants to be activated in you. And again, you can pause this on the replay and take as much time as you need. But now I want you to imagine that the earth is like a small ball in front of you. And hold your hands out. And just imagine that this energy you're now feeling, radiating in your heart, is now coursing through your body, down your arms, and out of your hands like a radiant field, and it's just saturating the planet. And you see and feel the color of this energy just enveloping the planet, and you can imagine it saturating different places on the planet, different pockets, different people. And just feel the energy moving through you, down your arms, and radiating to the planet now. And as you do this, feel that the energy within you is expanding as you become a channel for it. And as you say in your own words, may every being, every creature, and all of creation be blessed and abundant, unconditionally and without exception. May every being, every creature, and all of creation be abundantly blessed, unconditionally and without exception. And just feel that you're giving that away now, that you're becoming a channel of radiating that energy. Imagine that the energy is pouring through the top of your head now and through your heart, down your arms, and you're becoming a channel of more and more energy as you feel it radiating to the planet. Remember, you can only keep what you're willing to give away because it activates the law of circulation and it expands and turns on that power plant. So now you can generate more and more and more and just feel that. And you can focus on any place or any person in your life or on the world that you feel need that extra abundance, that blessing. And just consciously give away all that you would want for yourself now. May all beings be blessed. May all be abundant, abundantly provided for. Abundant with joy, with love, with happiness, with health, with all their needs met. Take a deep breath and just feel that energy expand again and radiate with intensity. And just know that right now you are connected energetically with everyone and everything that is a part of your destiny. So right now in this moment, you're no longer anticipating some future. You are participating in it. Spiritually, energetically, emotionally, you are participating in your abundance. You're participating in your power. You're participating in your destiny of greatness. And you are now being of service to all the people you're meant to serve and help. Energetically, feel that. And you are right now energetically in the flow and receiving the blessings from them as well. And now I want you to take your hands and turn them back towards yourself and say that same blessing to yourself. May I be blessed unconditionally and without acceptance, without conditions. And put your hands on your heart and just feel that energy now. The cycle or the circuit is completing. Take a deep breath and just bless yourself like you've never blessed yourself. Consciously want for yourself and give to yourself everything that you want. May I be blessed with all the wealth and the health and the joy and the love that I could ever imagine, unconditionally. And then just affirm yourself. Tell yourself all that's true about yourself. You are abundant. You are beautiful. You are powerful. Fill yourself up now. Give it to yourself and feel that you're literally activating that vibration within you. Whatever you've been waiting somebody else to tell you, tell it to yourself now. You are capable. You are powerful. You can do this. You will do this. I support you. I believe in you. And as you're feeling that, just allow me to activate what's called a quantum prayer, where I simply know that all the power and the presence, the wisdom, the genius, the abundance of the universe, that whatever's possible anywhere is possible everywhere because there's only one life, one power, one mind, and it's within and as and is your life now. And through this word that I'm speaking and activating this vibrational field, through this collective agreement of all that are part of this call and community, we are now stirring this divinity into activity. We are striking this mystic chord of memory and activating that latent abundance within you now. Your divine power plant is getting turned on and is now generating everything that you need on every level. It's showing up as new insight, revelation, guidance, direction, compelling right action, new relationship and opportunity. Everything that you need to be that magnificent being and fulfill that destiny of greatness. Like the oak tree rising out of the acorn, it is now rising out of your very heart, your very consciousness, and into your experience now. Feel that happening. Accept that it is so. Because I know that it is. And I know that the word that I'm speaking right now in this consciousness is a law of fulfillment and must bear fruit richly. Just breathe that in and say yes to your life and to your vision of abundance like never before. And I just thank you for taking this time and sharing this powerful energy with us. This collective energy is so much more powerful than us just doing it alone.
And so it is. Wow.
So it is.
Man, that is powerful stuff, Derek. And, I can't thank you enough for myself and for everyone that's listening today that you took your life and you researched and you searched until you found ways to serve us. And I'm excited about your 7-stage process and how you put your whole life into it. And folks, right now I want you to simply click on the special offer button that's on this page. And I want you to see what Derek's life work's been about. And it's all for you. He spent his life creating something that could change your life instantly. The Law of Emergence, bringing out something that's already in you. And thank you. I mean, I can't tell you that I feel, as you know, I'm headed on a long trip, and what a way to send me off. I just thank you for that. That was just beautiful. Would you let everybody know what they'll see when they go to see what you've done for them?
Absolutely. And yeah, this is a process, like I said, it's taken me a couple decades and tens of thousands of dollars and thousands of hours of meditating and going through my own dark night of the soul and nearly dying a couple times so that hopefully they don't have to go through all of that. They can.
Yeah, we don't want to die.
No, they can stand on the energetic shoulders of me and those that have come before. And that energetic pattern this isn't just a course with a bunch of words or, audios and all that. It's there, but the energy of it's there. You're stepping into this field that has been created, this morphic pattern that's been created, and you get to literally step into that with this program as well. So that's happening also. And I also want to say this isn't theory. I believe not to talk about anything or put anything out there that I haven't proved over and over again in my life and the life of my clients around the world. And so I've seen people do this work and literally go from being on the verge of bankruptcy to having more business than they know how to handle. I've seen people go from being out of work for a year and a half to having multiple job opportunities and offers after doing this work for a month or two. I've seen people literally heal their body, heal kidneys that were failing, suddenly start working again. I've seen people who were riddled with lifelong emotional traumas, debilitating depression, suddenly heal lifelong traumas. People that couldn't have a clue what their purpose was, suddenly discovering their passion and being on fire with the reason for being alive. Over and over and over again, I hear these testimonials. So this is, this is real scientific principles and practices. And I walk you through step by step, like a paint by numbers, stage by stage, wherever you are, how to cultivate those congruent conditions, how to catch that powerful vision of your life, how to create that quantum plan, and how to get on track and stay on track no matter what, so that nothing in the world can ever victimize you and make you a victim or knock you off. And so I've already talked about the 7 stages, so I don't really need to reiterate them. You can read this page and see again what each one of these has. It's over 10 hours of me walking you through step by step by step how to do this in your life, in any area of your life. So you can use this just as a general practice, or you can focus on one area, relationships, money, body, career, and just use the 7 stages to discover the vision of that area of your life and to create and cultivate the conditions for that potential to emerge. So you can just use it on one area that's particularly in crisis right now, or you can use it as an overall general big picture kind of a program. That's the way it's designed. And there's, again, like I said, there's over 10 hours of audio, meditations, practices, step by step by step that I take them through. And I've also included in this a whole bunch of bonuses that are normally reserved for my $1,000 a month clients, and other coaching, audios, other workbooks, worksheets, really giving you everything that I give my private clients. And then, and this isn't even on there, but I've decided I'm going to throw this in additionally, because one of the things I'm committed to is that this isn't just another program that gives you more shelf improvement. We know where it ends up on a shelf, right? Either a virtual shelf or a literal shelf makes the shelf look nicer. And you can point to that shelf and go, ooh, look at how nice that looks. I don't want any more shelf improvement. I want real self-improvement. And, by now I don't mean improving a self, but really activating the potential. So I'm committed to this being the program and the process that actually gets you results. So I'm going to add to this a free month of group coaching where you can work with me personally. You can raise your hand and I will work with you. And I've had people have breakthroughs in a matter of minutes, literally able to heal their life traumas or discover their purpose in minutes when I'm able to work with them privately, because I can immediately tap into that, what you need next, and help you uncover that and unpack that. So if you're working on this program, you're not doing it alone, and I will help you actually get results out of this. So I put all this together so that there won't be any reason or excuse for you to not succeed. And all of that said, if for whatever reason you try this out, you do everything, and after the first 30 days you're not absolutely blown away by it, or your family isn't saying, oh my God, what's happened to you? What are you doing? What's going on? Why are you so happy? If you don't start to see the results and feel the results, then you get to get all your money back, no questions asked. It's complete risk-free, and you can even keep all the bonuses, try out the group, everything for free. If you don't like it or it doesn't work, you get your money back and you get to keep it, because I know that it works. I know that it's not theory. And I don't want you to have any more reasons why you don't say yes to the yes within you. So if this is resonating with you, there's no risk to give yourself the gift of really finally getting who and what you really are and why you're alive, and feeling like never before just how powerful you really are. And with no risk, if for whatever reason it's not for you, then fine. Give it back with my blessings. Get your money back with my blessings. So I just want to make that really clear. And there's over, I think, $1,000 worth on the page. Plus, I've added the group, so it becomes like over $1,200 worth of actual products and services and value. And, as part of this kind of a program, we're doing a very special offer where it's just $97. And we
so appreciate that, Derek, because I know you're the kind of guy that just gives your heart out, and you've done that already by the visualization we just did, and it just really moved me to feel that, to embrace my greatness, embrace what is already, embrace my acornness.
Yes.
Derek, can you final word before we go?
Yeah, if you get nothing else out of this, what I want you to understand is that no matter where you've come from, no matter where you are, no matter what the world says you can and can't do, that within you right now is a destiny of greatness. All the power, all the wisdom, all the genius, all the wealth, the health, the love, the companionship, everything you need to fulfill your destiny, everything that acorn needs to be an oak, it's within you right now. And if you do nothing else, begin to contemplate that and ask the question, if this is true, and it is, how would I begin to live my life? How would my conversations begin to change? What might I begin to do? If this is who I really am, what would it look like to begin to step out on that invisible bridge, to begin to live into that potential, to stand up and to stand for who and what I really am? If you're willing to cultivate that inner awareness and begin to step up and stand out on that truth, it must begin to unfold and emerge in your life. So if you get nothing else, please let that become seared in your mind, just how amazing and how powerful and how abundant you are right now. But it cannot show up in your life until you accept it and begin to express it.
Yeah, as he said, if it resonates with you, give yourself the gift of you. Click on the special offer button that's on this page. Thank you so very much for sharing with us today, Derek. I appreciate you. I always look forward to our calls together, and I look forward to the next one.
Thank you, Daniel. It's been my honor and pleasure.